Welcome everyone, and as Sue said, we're pretty shocked that anybody's taken some time out on such a beautiful day to come and listen to this, but thank you all. Hope it's of use to you all. Quite a few people I know there, so good to see you today. A few visitor attractions. This is aimed predominantly at hotels, but an awful lot of the content will also be relevant to visitor attractions. In the sort of general online travel agent landscape, visitor attractions are a few years behind hotels, so it probably represents quite a good opportunity for you at the moment. A bit about me, why I'm doing this. Oh, we've missed a slide there. I'm a non-exec director for Cumbria Tourism. I work for the Langdale estate as the sales and marketing director. And we're going to go through an introduction, which I'll do in a minute, a bit of a background, which we'll do fairly quickly about online travel agents and where we are now. The slides have moved around a bit. The how-to will come next, just with how to manage certain things, and then we'll delve into various different options to create your own strategy around online travel agents and how to make the most of them. And we'll talk about content, inventory, allocation, however you want to do it, and rate. Rate will include a whole conversation, hopefully around rate parity, because we'll all have our own views on how we do that. Along the way, you should have a button to ask a question, raise your hand. Feel free to do that all the way along. And if there's things that come up that we want to talk about along the way that are either relevant to what we're saying or connected to it, fire away as we go along, because I'm sure it will be helpful. Okay, so that's me. The Langdale estate includes a number of businesses: Langdale Hotel, Brimstone Hotel, 100 timeshare and self-catering units, spa, bar, leisure, restaurants and pubs. So we've got quite a bit going on. I'm also, as I said before, a non-exec director at Cumbria Tourism, and I'm there for the digital marketing elements and support across the board, but particularly on digital marketing at CT. Been a director for about 6 years and at Langdale for 12 or so years. Before we just come on to this, Langdale, the reason that I'm kind of quite into the whole landscape with online travel agents is that in 2009, Langdale decided to go on a 100% digital marketing strategy, and we ditched every single kind of print you can think of, display advertising, print advertising, brochures, pretty much everything apart from a menu, which somebody might have needed in a restaurant, went online. And it was pretty successful. By 2011, we were hitting some quite high occupancies, but about 30% of all our business was coming through online travel agents. That's our rooms business. I got hauled into a meeting with one of the senior people at Booking.com because I wasn't adhering to some of their contractual obligations that we had in our contract with them, and got threatened to kicked off the site, which obviously when you're at 30% of your business is not really an option. We kind of went away from there and decided to really focus on driving direct business. After that, we opened Brimstone Hotel in 2016, which operates at around 90% occupancy and is 100% direct. We don't work with any partners at all there. And just before the shutdown, Langdale Hotel was down to about 7 or 8% online travel agent business from 30%. So we've done a lot of work to get to there, and our aim is within 18 months, maybe 2 years, depending on what happens after all the current drama's over, we'll probably drop online travel agents altogether, hopefully. Okay, so that's where we are. Quick bit of history, which I'm sure is new, but it's kind of setting a bit of context. It's the whole online travel agent world, and the world of selling online is moving hugely quickly with quite big growth and a lot of new players coming into the market up to 2000, and then post 2000 there was a kind of a bit of a hiatus following the 9/11 attacks, where travel was hugely disrupted A lot of going on behind the scenes. And since then, we've had a huge amount of consolidation where we now essentially have three major players we're used to dealing with in the Lake District or in Cumbria for online travel agents. Expedia and all of their subsidiary companies, and Booking.com or Priceline as the parent company is. Now, according to some research published earlier in April, these two companies are now responsible for 70% of bookings worldwide. It's not that high in the UK, but it's still pretty considerable in terms of the market share they command. Direct bookings are eating away at it, particularly with some of the larger hotel groups, and certainly Hilton did a very, very big book direct campaign last year and earlier this year. And of course, Airbnb is the latest online travel agent, which is really taking significant market share from them. And we can talk about Airbnb as an online travel agent a little bit later. But essentially, the consolidation to a few very, very big players has been huge recently. And that brings with it some opportunity, but probably more challenges than opportunities for us. Okay, so if anybody has been doing this as long as me, and I was going to mention one of our colleagues on the call, but I won't, who's been doing it for even longer than I have around here. When online travel agents first came on the scene, the pitch that we were given was that online travel agents would sell the inventory that you can't sell, so at your quieter times, or to new audiences that you can't reach or can't afford to reach, like international audiences, and they were going to sell your inventory when you couldn't, like low season and things like that. And for a while, that was certainly the truth. And they've developed hugely since then, and now enjoy multi-million pound advertising campaigns. Between the two companies that we highlighted earlier and Amazon, they're the three biggest spenders on Google advertising in the world at the moment. They also have, between them, huge teams of website developers who are working constantly on developing a fantastic customer and browser experience. They've got the kind of R&D into experience building that none of us can come close to. And they, of course, have a huge amount of choice. If you're visiting the Lake District, Windermere, Bowness, Ambleside, or anywhere, any destination you want to put in, I can go straight onto an online travel agent and see 5 different hotels that I could compare all in one go, and they make the browser experience and the guest journey very, very easy for me, particularly once they've got me on their site and shown me a lovely choice of hotels. Their conversion tactics are second to none in terms of trying to get people to buy. I'm sure you've seen it all. This is the last room available on the site. We've only got 2 rooms left. 10 people have looked at this room today, and all that kind of stuff. We're seeing some of those conversion tactics dropping down into online booking platforms for accommodation providers, and we can have a look at that a bit later, but they're certainly leading the way with that. And they probably do more conversion testing, analytics, and A/B testing than any other form of online retail. With the consolidation, they also have massive market share. With market share comes the ability to market back to those people, comes contact details, and all of the benefits that they have in terms of being able to reach huge markets, particularly with the consolidation of different brands, certainly like Priceline, Booking.com, and all their subsidiaries, and now they're having had a big stake taken in them by Ctrip, the big Chinese operator. They have huge amounts of data and databases that they can market to. And finally, one of the things that they have is where they have a lack of regulation. Now, certainly, there's 2 different types of regulation here. One is regulation by monopolies, and certain elements of their contracts and what they do has been regulated in places like Sweden and Italy and France and other countries. But also there's no regulation in terms of what's sold on their platform. I could take a couple of pictures of my front room or my spare bedroom, and I could have that up and trading within about 20 minutes. I don't need a carbon monoxide, I don't need any assurance, I don't need any kind of licensing or anything at all to be selling that and have people coming and staying there and paying money for it. And that's one thing that certainly online travel agents have that we as operators don't. But there's a lot of things online travel agents don't have and we have that we can use to our advantage, which we'll certainly go into a little bit more as we go along. We have amazing product knowledge wherever you're operating, wherever you are in Cumbria. You certainly will have product knowledge not only of your own product, but of your destination, which is second to none. And that can be a fantastic marketing tool in a whole number of different channels. And give you an edge over the online travel agents which don't have that, despite sometimes having destination landing pages, particularly Expedia are very good at that. That really is their way of selling more of your rooms rather than having genuine authenticity. Also, every single piece of content, pretty much, even though you produce it, you write it, and you put it up there on online travel agents, edited, doesn't carry the sort of personality that you can carry through on your own marketing. And also you will have knowledge of the destination, which is way ahead of what an online travel agent may have. Wherever you're struggling on destination content, of course, that's easily available. Cumbria Tourism have a huge amount of content that they can use, as do all sorts of other sources and partnerships that you can generate. Of course, you can just step outside your front door, take some pictures, write a story, see what's going on, work with your neighbours, and you've got a whole load of content around your destination that others that sort of those international platforms just don't. And also you have authenticity. So whatever you say is clearly coming from your destination, from you as the provider and from you. And you can really weave that into your content, to your marketing and to your messages, so that when somebody does land on your site who may have seen you on an online travel agent or maybe comparing you or deciding whether to book through you or an online travel agent, you can tell your story about why it's so important that they go with the authentic choice, which is you, rather than the sort of the international generic choice. Also, if any of you have recently tried to upload content or change your content on an online travel agent, it's not nearly as easy as it used to be. It has to go through a load of checks these days, where they're checking for you not putting a direct URL, they're checking for you not asking people to book direct and stuff like that. Whereas you can have live content, you can change your content on your booking engine, on your website, on your social every day, every hour, or whatever. Which is really engaging to browsers and potential bookers, rather than the sort of content you get on online travel agents, which tends to eventually all be the same. And one thing you have, which is way more important than online travel agents, you actually have an awful lot of control. It might not feel like that sometimes, particularly when you're trying to market against an online travel agent, which is maybe bidding on your name or your brand. But we'll come on to it a bit later. You are actually in complete control, particularly when it comes to rates and availability. It might not feel it when you're trying to get your name out there in the marketplace, but you can certainly use this to your advantage. And then this word regulation, again, we'll keep coming back to this. The fact that you are regulated, you have an insurance policy, you have a carbon monoxide detector, and all these other things that you may have is actually a benefit to you, because you can stand out against all of those competition that are on online travel agents that don't have any of these things. And this is going to be really, really important when we do start to reopen. Places that are regulated, that are safe, that have any kind of accreditation are going to hopefully, as we go forward, stand out over, like I said before, somebody that may be renting out their front room, or their spare room, great though that is, and those platforms allow for that kind of customer choice, it's unlikely going to be the choice of people coming out of the coronavirus situation that we're going to be into. People are going to want somewhere which they can be confident is clean, well looked after, and well taken care of, as they want to be when they visit. Okay, so things you need to start to look at to really start to compete with online travel agents. The first place to start is your property management system. Now, this is obviously a very hotel-specific term, but for visitor attractions, this is your platform that you use for taking your bookings and managing all your bookings. Now, your property management system gives you a whole load of opportunities, or should give you a whole load of opportunities, depending on which platform you use, and there's lots out there. But the two most important are certainly to analyze your data and know what your booking patterns are. When do people book? How long your lead-in time is? What rates do they book at? When do they choose to stay? Which are their preferred rates? By understanding all of that, you can then really start to make the most of the opportunities that are out there. And we'll come on to that when we talk about rates and availability later. The other thing that most property management systems will allow is for you to work up your very own version of a loyalty scheme. Now, we all like a loyalty scheme. I'm sure everybody has their Tesco's Club Card points or their Air Miles or whatever it is. And there's no reason why you can't work out your own one. Some places may already have that. And it can be super basic. It can be emailing everybody that's subscribed to say, we really like your loyal subscription. Here's an offer. It can be emailing everyone to say, great, we like the fact that you've come with us. Here's some great new content. And next time you come to visit the area, this is why you should book with us. But without having that data and knowing who's been, when they've been, how often they've stayed, how much they've paid, gives you a great opportunity to leverage that loyalty to get more bookings. And very often you can leverage that loyalty to get more bookings without necessarily needing to discount as well, or to drive them, if you are using a discount, to drive them into the periods of the year when you have the availability. There's an old phrase, something along the lines of keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Depends on your take of your account manager for your online travel agent. Whether you consider them to be a friend or an enemy, keep them very, very close. They are your easiest route to finding out what's going on, to finding out what the latest opportunities are. And clearly they are there to try and get you to sell more rooms through their platform. But they are also the most knowledgeable people you'll come across in terms of what the opportunities are. Very often those opportunities won't be right for you, but every now and then, you will come across an opportunity that is right for you, that does sit with you, and will work. And if they also have very, very good market knowledge, as does the platform that you use, you can normally log in and get some very good market knowledge. But the market knowledge in terms of knowing when to put offers out, knowing when demand is high, knowing when prices are high, knowing when they're low, and maybe not getting so involved is really important. And those options and opportunities should really inform your strategy going forward, and when we come to talk about this. Both the platform, the account manager, will be able to provide you with your current results. Now, depending on how you feel about your results through your online travel agents, the whole reason that most people are here is that they want less results through their online travel agents and more business direct. But there are times, obviously, when you do want business from online travel agents and times when you don't. And so analysing your results is really important to be able to get the most from your online travel agents. The other thing which most people are probably doing already, but does feel counterintuitive, is to make sure that you bid on your own brand in paid search. And one of the frustrations for many years with lots of people with online travel agents is that online travel agents will bid on the name of their hotel or their visitor attraction or their accommodation in Google. And so the first result that comes up is Expedia, Booking.com or whoever, because they're bidding on your own brand. This has been tested in the past in terms of trademark, in terms of asking people not to bid on your brand with a trademark. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending how you look at it, if you're a retailer of anything at all and you give your product to someone else to sell, they're perfectly entitled to bid on it, and that's just the way it is. But by bidding on your own brand, you can appear next to them, even though you appear at the top of the organic search results. You will also appear directly alongside it in that top part of the search results alongside it. And a click on your own brand is probably not going to cost you any more than 10p, whereas paying 15 or more % commission is probably going to cost you 30, 40 pounds plus. So bidding on your own brand to sit next to the online travel agents where they can is certainly something that we should all be looking at doing. It's fairly easy to do, and it's very cost effective as well. And of course, you're only paying per click as well. The other thing to constantly look at, something we're going to come back to later, is looking at how does your guest journey or your guest experience compare to that of an online travel agent. Now, we mentioned earlier that they've got millions and millions of pounds to spend on the very best software developers, some of the best software developers in the country or in the world, to work on their experience and their brand. But how many of us actually go through the whole process of booking our accommodation through various different third parties and then go through the process of booking it on our own platforms? Now, of course, these platforms that we use are provided by a third party, so we don't have complete control over them. But certainly it's something you want to review fairly regularly if your guest experience is lacking behind that of an online travel agent, then that's going to reduce your opportunity to convert directly. Something else, again, we'll touch on later is review your terms and conditions, and we've got a great example of this. Obviously, you're in complete control of your terms and conditions, not only on every platform. A lot of places, the terms and conditions are not the same. People choose to have different terms and conditions on different platforms. That's absolutely fine, and that can be a very wise choice, but always make sure they're in your favor. Cancellations is a fantastic example, and I'll give you an example of what we do. Our cancellation terms for our best available rate on our own website are 24 hours, but they're 48 hours if you book through an online travel agent. So we're giving a slightly better set of terms and conditions if you book direct than if you book elsewhere. And you can use these in all sorts of ways. And we'll look at an example of at the end of this of someone who's just got it the wrong way around. And one of the other things is particularly look at with I don't know how many people are active in the international market, as the cost of acquisition for international guests is generally much higher than that for domestic guests. It's much more difficult to get your brand out there to international markets. And that's somewhere where you can make the most. The cost of acquisition in terms of paying commission for somebody from outside the UK can often represent quite good value for money compared to domestic guests. So certainly Booking.com, and I'll touch on it later, have some really good options now for specifically targeting international. If we can go through exactly how that works later, but the cost of acquisition for my business for international guests is actually really good, and I'm happy to do that amongst other things, amongst other activity. And Sue can give you a sales pitch for the India forum later. But amongst other activity, targeting international guests through online travel agents is good value for money for us. Okay, I'm aware of time. We need to keep going. So I'll talk about a few different ways to look at your strategy. and give you some indicators of how to. And we'll look at content, inventory, and probably the most important is rate. Certainly in terms of content, anybody that's into marketing will be pretty confident that they've always got the very best content they can have wherever it is. And whether that's written, images, video, whatever it is, we all want our businesses to be represented in the best way possible. And that goes across every single platform. We always want it to look better than our competition, to appear better than our competition when people are making choices. And it's not just about standing out against your competition. It's also thinking about this thing called the billboard effect, and there's quite a lot of research done. If you're really struggling for things to do and are as geeky into this marketing nonsense as I am, you can Google it and find out all sorts of white papers and reports. But there is evidence, and we certainly see it at our place, that a lot of people will find you on an online travel agent, then go and find your website direct, and find a little bit more about what you're all about and what your story is, and some more detail about your offering. So by having some fantastic content on an online travel agent platform, obviously it gives you the opportunity to convert that guest into a booking. But it also gives you an opportunity just to leave a little bit, so that you can leave the browser wanting a little bit more. And that's where it's really important to make sure that on your website you have that little bit more for them, so they don't then go back to the online travel agent to make their booking. They get all the content they need, and they get those little pointers as to why they should come and choose you. And when that goes back to that authenticity, to that destination knowledge, to the video, to it being up-to-date and relevant content, which just makes anybody who's come from an online travel agent really want to book your site. But in the first place, you need to have quality content that makes people want to book with you. Another element which is really important, and we all have in our businesses, we all have our own particular way of dealing with guest reviews, whether that's direct, whether that's on well, what was a review specific platform like TripAdvisor, they're now just an online travel agent like the others. But certainly user generated content in terms of reviews is on virtually all platforms nowadays. And obviously this is in all our businesses, our raison d'etre is to give our guests amazing experiences. It can be tempting sometimes to demonize is probably the wrong word, but not give quite such a good experience to someone who's booked through an online travel agent, possibly through frustration, through giving them a poorer room, through disappointment that they may have booked through an online travel agent. But just remember, these people are your direct guests next time round, and also they're the people that are going to be generating that content on those platforms. That's going to make people book, or possibly even come direct to you again if your reviews are that good. So user-generated content is something that's important on all platforms. And again, you know, there's always a next time with anyone that books through an online travel agent. So everybody, frustrating though it is that people may have chosen an online travel agent rather than coming back, rather than coming direct, there's lots of reasons why people do so, and I'm sure we've all done it ourselves possibly in the past. But using your PMS right and using your loyalty offer, every single online travel agent booker is definitely an opportunity for a direct booker next time, and they should be viewed as that. So you've got all this wonderful content on your online travel agent platforms. Then you need to look at how many rooms do you give them, or how many tickets, or how much availability do you give them. And again, this goes back to looking at your data and understanding your data, and looking at what mix of bookings you'd like to have. Now that's kind of a bit obvious because we all want everyone 100% to come direct, but that's in most situations that's not going to happen just because of the way the market is and the way it works. But how do you get closer to a mix of bookings that's right for you? I'm guessing for most people in a seasonal destination like ours, you want to really work hard to minimize your online travel agent bookings during the summer, Easter, Christmas, half terms, and look at maybe driving them during the quieter times, the shoulder seasons, particularly the winter time and so on. But timing is everything with this. So a good understanding of what's happening in your area is a great place to start. So for anybody in Ambleside, Windermere, Bowness, Great North Swim Weekend, block out your online travel agents. Is a great example of where to start. You're going to fill your hotel, whatever. So you shouldn't really need to, if you've got a good direct guest experience and so on. August bank holidays, things like that. Winter droving in Penrith, maybe, I don't know. I'm not, Keswick, whatever, outdoor festival that they have in Keswick. Kendal Mountain Festival. All of these times are great examples of, in your area, you should be looking at these and should have all online travel agents blocked out at least a year in advance for all these things. Also look at your lead-in time for bookings on direct bookings and on online travel agents. If your average lead-in time for bookings for online travel agents is more than 30 days, for example, and shorter lead-in time stuff is fairly easy to sell, well, make sure you close out 30 days out, and make sure that you haven't got rooms available when they're less likely to sell, but also there's a good chance you can sell them yourself as well. It might be that the only time you really have a problem selling or you need support selling your rooms is at very short lead-in time, in which case only open your online travel agents 20, 30 days out or 10 days out or whatever. But analysing the timing of the lead-in and how far out people book is key to knowing when to get the most success from them. And also the lead-in time, whatever it is, online travel agents are a great opportunity to react to a problem. Going back to the Great North Swim a couple of years ago, the blue-green algae Great North Swim cancelled. If I had an accommodation in the area, I would open up all my accommodation as my guests would cancel into that. If you've got a group booked in and they cancel, go straight to your online travel agent, open up some rooms and get them available. They are a good platform to as well as doing all the normal stuff like emailing your regular guests and doing all that kind of thing. They are a great way to react to a problem. And even if by opening up a developer it doesn't fix it for you, it certainly makes you feel better because you tried to do something about it anyway. And this is probably more important, but also more difficult. When it comes to rate, we all have contractual obligations with online travel agents surrounding rate and rate parity. Now, rate parity is still important in the UK. It's been outlawed, as I mentioned earlier, in some countries, but it's still part of your contractual obligations with. So you just need to think about rate parity. I know of a number of businesses that subtly ignore rate parity and put a higher price on online travel agents than direct to help cover the commission. I know a few that have been brought up because of it, because they have an automated checking system where they scan direct and other platforms. I don't yet know of anybody that's recently been removed for a site or had any significant penalties. But clearly, I'm not suggesting in any way that you should break your contractual obligations that you might have. That's a decision for you. But certainly when it comes to rate, there are definitely some opportunities there. Do you want to put the same rate plan on all platforms? Do you want to put the same rates, as in you might have a number of different rates, some that include dinner, some that don't include dinner, some that include breakfast, some that don't. and all sorts of things. You might want to create rates or packages specific to online travel agents for whatever reason. Or you might want to create rates and packages which is specific to direct and are not on online travel agents at all. So you can incentivize people to have a better opportunity, a better product. Book if they come direct, you can partner with a local visitor attraction and they can have a ride on a boat or a steam train included that you can't get on an online travel agent. So there's lots of opportunities there to use rate to your advantage, and certainly T's and C's and rate go together very much, particularly when you look at prepaid rates and advanced purchase rates. There's a great opportunity to use those to your benefit, and we'll see exactly how that can be done wrong just in a minute. But really think about rate. Which ones do you want to sell on online travel agents and which ones do you want to keep for direct is really important. And by using those different rates properly, you can make your sales, even if you do decide, even if you are sticking to the rate parity clause within your contract, you can use rate to make it appear a bit cheaper. And here's a great example. I don't know if anybody's here is connected to the Morecambe Bay Hotel. I hope not. But if we have a look on here, I did a search on Google. The Morecambe Bay Hotel are connected to Google Meta, which is good to see. So they're competing there on a pay-per-click basis against the other hotels. However, if I was going to choose to go and book direct with them, I'm going to pay £60. But why would I do that when I can go and get a rate of £51 and available through Booking.com and two of their subsidiaries? So it's obviously going to be, one would assume that the vast majority of clicks there are going to go to the £51 rate and not the £60 rate, which unfortunately is the direct one. So I did just have a check direct, and I don't know if you can see this. I'm sure we can share these slides afterwards as an example. You choose to go direct and you pay £60. It's the best available rate. Even though you do pay a deposit with them, it is refundable, which I'm not quite sure why they do that, but you pay a refundable deposit, which is refundable about 3 days prior to check-in. But if you go to this slide, you can get exactly the same rate through Booking.com, which is right. In rate parity terms, that's absolutely correct. The £60 rate is also available with free cancellation. But they're offering their advanced purchase or non-refundable rate through Booking.com, but they're not offering it direct, and this is obviously for the same dates. Really simply, they've just got that the wrong way around. The non-refundable rate should be available direct and not through the online travel agent. So they've just got it the wrong way around. If they'd done it the other way around, when I'd gone in to search and I had my rates came up on the Google results, I would have got the £51 rate if we booked direct, and all of the online travel agents would have been at £60. Really, really simple. I've kept to my contractual obligations. I'm driving cash flow into the business because it's non-refundable, so that's good anyway. And I pay a £9 cheaper. It's an absolute no-brainer in that search that I'm just going to go and book direct and get the cheaper rate. So there's a really good example of how just really simply switching that non-refundable rate to direct only rather than on the online travel agent, I've just hopefully going to drive a whole load of business to my site, which I'll hopefully convert rather than going through an online travel agent, and that's from Google search. So that's a very, very quick run through, because I know we've only got a few minutes left, and we can do some questions in a minute. But also, yes, online travel agents have huge market share, as we looked at earlier, massive marketing campaigns, huge customer loyalty, and all that kind of stuff. But don't forget the other options that are out there to spread your risk as well. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket unless that's direct, of course. There are still travel agents, and I know a few people on this call work very actively with some of the larger travel agents out there, and are very successful in bringing non-domestic business here. That's where you tend to work in net rates and allocations as well, which is maybe another whole webinar. There is still print and display advertising out there. I haven't done it for 10 years now, but Sue can run you through all the wonderful options that CT have for the holiday guide, and there's lots of others out there. Also mentioned before, bidding on your own brand. Pay-per-click. Pay-per-click is a very, very cost-effective way of marketing, and the analytics is so good now that you can work back your cost per booking of all your pay-per-click activity, whether that's display advertising in Google or through meta search like Google Hotel or Kayak or TripAdvisor. And normally your property management system can handle an awful lot of that for you. So it's a very good way of getting rooms in, which is a lot cheaper than 15+%. Retargeting, so that's re-advertising to people that have already been on your site, is much easier to do now than it ever was, particularly through the Google platform. And again, it's very, very cost effective because it is on a pay-per-click basis. Still a little bit stalkery to some people who don't really get why they keep seeing the same ads over and over again. But it has been proved, if done properly, to work well. And finally, of course, the Lake District, or Cumbria, as I should refer to it, is probably the most collaborative destination I know of, particularly when I talk to other DMOs and other businesses. There's so much collaboration going on, whether it's through all of the stuff CT do, whether it's through the Hoteliers Association, through the regions, with the Eden Tourism Network and others. Make sure you're collaborating with others, whether they be other accommodation providers, but particularly between visitor attractions and hotels. There's lots of collaboration, and there's still huge opportunities for collaboration right across the county.